Welcome to The Longer Game, the only show that's dedicated to the future of retail. We bring on real-life people in the retail industry. We talk about their experiences, we share their stories, we apply it to what's currently going on in the market, and we look towards the future of retail. You could say it's retail reimagined. My name is Michael Marr. I run a customized, done-for-you service agency called Cartology that helps brands win on Amazon. Now, while my expertise stems in the Amazon field, we bring on a wide array of guests because retail is expansive. You've got e-commerce. Yes, you've got marketplaces like Amazon. You've also got brick and mortar that is evolving. You've got logistics. You've got technology, finance. There are so many aspects to retail, and it's complicated. So we're here to bring you the entire story. Do you think that you have an interesting story and you'd like to tell it on the podcast? Then go to thelongergame.com and fill out a form to be a guest on the show today. You can catch The Longer Game on any social channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thelongergame.com. We've got all awesome guests on this show, so that I will promise. Are you ready to hear more about the future of retail? Let's get down to business. Welcome, everybody, to The Longer Game. This is a podcast where we talk all about retail, e-commerce, retail, blah, blah, blah. You name it, all retail. We talk about it here. We talk about the future of retail, too. And today on the show with me, I have Matthew Stafford. He is the managing partner at Build, Grow, Scale. And he's got a ton of e-commerce expertise, and he's helping brands to scale by using data-driven optimization strategies. Now, that's the pocketbook answer that I have, but I'm going to let Matthew tell us a little bit more about him. Welcome to the show, Matthew. Tell us about you and what you do.
So we actually, like you said, use data and analytics to analyze what customers are doing on the website or future customers and figure out how to reverse engineer what's happening so that we can make that experience smoother. And the way to put that in terms that all the business owners want to understand is the average conversion rate for e-commerce is around 2%. So that means for every 100 people that come to your website, about 2 people buy. And I consistently for years saw people like, oh, I need more ads. I need more traffic. And I just thought to myself, I had 100 people come to my site. 98 people had raised their hand, said they were interested in what I was selling and left without buying. If I get 2 more of those 98 that already came, I doubled my business on the same amount of ad spend.
Yeah, but I want to spend more on ads, Matthew.
Right. So I just thought Dan Kennedy says whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. If I can spend or buy ads and get 4 sales and they get 2, I can spend more and I'll take market share. And from that point forward, it was off to the races. We literally grew brands from 200,000-300,000 a month all the way up to 2 or 3 million a month. We took brands that were at 10 grand a month and took them to 100,000 a month. And we realized that what we were doing, I hadn't just got struck by lightning and it worked on my own site, but the things that we were doing worked across all different niches.
When you talk about increasing someone from 10,000 to 100,000 or 200,000 to 300,000 to 2 or 3 million, is there also a increase in ad spend as you're doing that, or is that?
Yeah, okay? For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And I get what you're saying. Like, you increase conversion rate, of course you can spend more, but you want to increase conversion rate first so that the money you're putting in isn't additional money that's going down the toilet.
Yeah, 100%. And what I've found over the last 10 years of doing this is that in all reality, paid media companies are our best referral source because they know when they're driving traffic, if it's not converting, it's so funny how many of the store owners go, yeah, my ads just aren't working. My ads aren't working. And they're switching agencies. And I'm like, well, it looks like you're getting a whole bunch of people to your site. And they're like, yeah, I am. And I said, then the ads they're working.
They're doing their job. Yeah.
The person who sees the ad, they click on it and come to your site. That's literally the ad doing its job. And now your website needs to pick up the baton and carry it across the finish line. And that's really where the attention needs to be, not someone else that can drive more clicks to your
If
site.
you get a super low click through rate, maybe ads aren't relevant or targeting is off
Right.
for sure. But that's something I think about all the time on the Amazon side. I'm like, if we can just increase your conversion rate a little bit, that's going to improve everything. And there are a lot of ad only agencies that realize that limitation, and that either drives them to refer to someone that can do better creative for the product detail page where you're mostly sending people, or they start doing it themselves because they realize it's going to make our ad money go a lot further. Results are going to be better. Someone's going to be happy.
Yeah, 100%. It really does take a synergy of all the different aspects of it. It's getting harder and harder because e-commerce is evolving, and it is getting the competition's much better. It requires experts in each area of it in order to compete, especially at the level that, if you're trying to grow a $40-50 million a year business, which is $3-4 million a month, then you got to be good at what you're doing.
The level of everybody in the playing field is better, is what you're saying.
Yes, 100%. It's not the wild, wild west where you used to be able to throw up some ads and some things. Too many people have been burned, got really crappy products or really crappy service. And so now people just don't spend their money unless you've done a really good job of figuring out how to build that trust. And that starts with how well your site works.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Wild Wild West was like people slinging guns and riding on horses, but apparently it's just putting up a bad ad and getting people to maybe buy or maybe not. I mean, honestly, Amazon has been very similar to that. I don't know that I would. It's still a little bit crazy at times. It's definitely not the Wild Wild West, although people will say that. There's a lot of like cliche things people say, like Amazon changes every day. Does it really? Like, there are certainly visual components that change. There are certainly some micro shifts in maybe what Amazon shows on the front page or how they determine some of what shows up in search results. But it always drove me nuts when people would say, oh, Amazon's A10 algorithm came out. Like, that department is called A9 because I'm pretty sure the word algorithm has 9 letters in it. They haven't changed it to A10 as far as I know. Sure, they updated that, but that's like Google updates their algorithm regularly just to keep up with the time. So certainly things change, but it's not all the time. And I think in this case, what we're talking about, especially on the conversion rate side, the basics are still true. I get 100 people to my site. I can get 1 more. I can get 2 more, 3 more. My money goes further. And maybe people's preferences for what conversion optimization looks like have changed, but you get more conversions, you drive more traffic, you can get better costs, you win.
Yeah, I think business is the ultimate inner game because the one thing that you can absolutely count on always happening that's very, very consistent is that things are going to change no matter what. That's life. And so it is going to show you where you're not showing up good enough, where you're not doing what you need to do, or where you are not disciplined enough. And you either embrace that and understand that that is the game you're playing and you win, or you seek comfort and over time you'll wither away.
What is always interesting to me, and I see it a lot, people hyper focus on optimization of ads in the sense of better efficiency, and they miss out. So brands that I will audit every week, wow, look at our return on ad spend. It's a 4 or 5. Great. What do your sales look like? Well, we're down 20% year over year. Wonder why that is. It's much deeper than that. It's often, okay, your ROAS looks good. Well, let's look at what you're spending on. Well, one, you're spending a lot of branded, and you're overbidding on that. You're underbidding on all your generic and your competitor stuff. And you're leveraging this one ad type. You're not leveraging these other things, which have been known to improve conversion rate. And I think I honestly feel bad for a lot of brands because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And a lot of agencies don't even know what they don't know. And then they're giving advice based on that.
Yeah, we don't do paid media. So I would be in that same boat. our entire focus is from when the person lands on the website until they give you money. That's where we do our thing. And we want to one, enter the conversation that they're having in their head when they get to your site. So if they land on a product, or I'll just give you a good example. On the homepage, you see it all the time on a site where people have quick add or buy now. And I always ask the owner, do you have enough information on that quick add link to make $100 buying decision?
Mm.
And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, then why are you asking them to click that button if you haven't given them enough information to do that? Why, instead of saying buy now, don't you say learn more, or more options, or things like that? Because now the person's like, oh, they might have more colors, or they might have different sizes, or they might all these different things that will get them to click it. But if they're not ready to buy, they don't want to click on a buy now button.
They're worried they're
They want
going to spend money
buy
right
now,
away. Yeah.
and it's
They're
and
worried
it's
that the
not.
thing that they click on is actually going to happen. Amazing.
Right. And so people don't want to click on something when it's 3 commitments farther down the line than what they're ready for. So we've tested button colors because that's what everybody wants to do. And we've never found that the button color makes a huge difference. The text on the button makes a huge difference. So what it says actually moves the needle way more than the color. What we have found, and we call it the hierarchy of focus, which is the principle of you always want the next most important action that you want them to take to stand out.
Okay.
And so if your theme on your store is black and yellow, you don't want to use black and yellow buttons because that's going to match a whole bunch of other elements on the theme. Use blue or green or
something that's a
different
little
colors.
bit more contrasty that feels like there's maybe an action that could be tied behind it.
100%. So the button stands out and the text in it is really readable.
So don't make the button invisible is what you're saying.
Yeah. Ghost buttons are terrible too.
You know what?
Terrible.
You're like saying this stuff, and I don't know why. I'm just maybe feeling especially ornery today, but maybe you're just giving out good vibes. I really don't know what to say. But when we originally talked, we had a really good conversation. At least I felt. I don't know. You could leave a review of the podcast and tell me it was bad or good. But what I think is funny, or what I think is interesting, is like testing things to know if they will work or not. So like when you're talking about changing the text on a button, part of me, and maybe this is like part of like what my brand with Cartology, or it's my personal brand, Cartology, my agency, maybe the longer game too, is what if I put don't click here? What would that do? And I mean, you could A/B test that, like learn more, don't click here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know. That's
100%. You'll be shocked at how many people just follow instructions.
Oh, okay. So they would not click. They would not. You think they would not click? Okay, because I would be if I'm your target audience, please put don't click here. I'm going to click there every single time.
Yeah. No, that would you would be shocked at how many less people would click it than if you put click here.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. That's also why anytime if I'm on social media and I'm like, I wonder what this is, and I'm like, I want to click, I'm like, probably shouldn't. I don't want to see something I don't want to see. I can't get it out of my head. So I'm just going to move on to the next thing. It took me a while to filter that, but I don't know. I think about tests like that. I also just think people don't read as much. You, on the other hand, do like to read books. I've been reading more books as well. Recently, I've just been going on somewhat of a digital fast, something that my church is doing, like leading up to Lenten season. We're not Catholic, but it was like, hey, let's try and do less on our devices. And so I've been reading more. But I don't think people pay attention to text a lot. Now, if it's a little bit, they probably do. But like all the bullet points on Amazon, certainly the search engine, and if you're using something like Rufus to look up products, it's going to judge intent from that. But I don't think people read that stuff at all. I think they're just looking at main images and big, bold text, USPs on something.
Agreed.
Okay.
We always say that you definitely need to make your site browsable.
Okay.
You don't want to have we call it walls of text, because people won't read it. They literally, they don't have the attention span to go through the details. So progressive disclosure matters a lot. That way they can click on the area that is relevant to what they're looking for. Maybe it's shipping. Maybe it's the return policy. Maybe it is the materials in the thing, or how many servings. So you can separate those into tabs or
Okay.
different areas so that then they can look at it. But if you put it in a wall of text, which so many people do, you'd be shocked at how much that hurts your conversions.
Like give them a
People
little bit
just
of
don't.
what they need. Give them what they need, and if they
Yeah,
want more, they can figure it out.
100%.
It's amazing how like so many simple things people just don't think about. And I imagine brands are just so caught up. I mean, I at least I see this on my end. Brands are just so caught up in their brand and I want to grow and I want to do this. They're not objectively thinking about it. And I get that. It's hard to step outside of that, but imagine if you come in and you say, "Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this?" "No, I haven't thought about it." "Well, we don't want to do that because it doesn't align with our brand."
Yeah.
"Well, have you
Yeah.
tested it?" "No." "So how do you know it doesn't work?" I mean, I feel like I have a conversation with my daughter like, "I don't like mayonnaise." I'm like, "Have you ever had mayonnaise before?" "No, but I just know I don't like it." I'm like, "All right, well, logic."
So I do ruffle feathers with that, because people
Good for you,
will
man.
say, yeah, they'll say that doesn't match my brand, and I'm like, uh, I'm not trying to offend you, but you don't have a brand. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, if you turn off ads, are you going to stay in business? Will
Interesting.
you sell enough to stay in business? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, then you don't have a brand yet.
Interesting.
How do you build a brand? You sell stuff. So what I would say is default to selling stuff, and then secondary would be figure out how to make that appear to be on brand, but don't get rid of sales to be on brand that you believe
Yeah.
that you have. The way that you make a brand is by selling a lot of stuff.
Matthew, revenue is off brand for me. So we just really don't want to generate more revenue. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, I run the,
You'll be shocked how many times we have a winning test, and then they'll go, yeah, we just don't, this doesn't feel good. Okay, so then why did we test it?
yeah.
Or why did we look at the data?
Yeah.
Why did we spend the time to do this? Yeah, and they can't do it. And so for us, that's very frustrating, because we make money based off of winning.
And you're
And when
showing
we're
them the
not allowed
data.
to win, yeah, when we're not allowed to win because it's not on brand, it's very frustrating.
I said I don't like revenue, but I also run Banksy's art catalog. So we don't really care about money. We just like to put stuff up at auction and sell it, and then it automatically destroys. So we actually like to burn revenue. So if you want to give us cash, we can totally burn your cash if that feels good. What are, I'm sure there are some just basic things that I love practical stuff. If someone right now is looking and auditing their site, help them get into your mindset. What can they, and certainly not, some people could maybe do this on their own. A lot of people are going to need help. What is
Yeah,
something people could do just to think about, like, what am I missing here?
so we obviously run split tests every week, all the time.
Okay.
I'm gonna give your audience for free the number one winning, most revenue generated thing that we've ever done. In the last 5 years, it's probably easily it probably is easily responsible for 5 or 6 of the biggest wins we've had, multi-million-dollar wins.
Okay.
On the thank you page, right after someone buys from you, pop up a question that says, what was the one thing that almost made you not buy? And when you ask that question from someone who just gave you money, they want to help you. They feel a reciprocity. And so they will tell you what they didn't understand, what they didn't like, what was not smooth, or what wasn't
Yeah.
clear. And I'm telling you, we use that question with every customer or every client that we engage with.
Is that the first thing you
And
do?
it's the very first thing we do, because you're getting it straight from the customer, the person who has went through the website many times for the very first time. So we also know that the owner and us, we've looked at the site over and over and over. Well, what happens when you look at something over and over and
You
over?
get used to it.
Your brain tries to save energy, and it goes, I've already seen this. I'm going to put it in the background and just do it on autopilot. So now we do not see the same thing that the customer who's coming through it for the first time looking for what they want. We don't see it the same way as they do. If that's not because we don't care, not because we don't want
Yeah.
to, it's because our brain is working like it's supposed to. And so by doing it that way, we get information always. And as we update the site, people's answers change. So we always have that running.
You talked about, sometimes it's just really honestly like simple things. I love simplifying. I love brands that are clean, crisp, simple. They get right to the point, and or they just, their design speaks for itself. They're very clear about what they do. There was actually a, I don't know that actual clip, but I have a group of entrepreneurs that I meet with once a month, and group's called Banded, which is cool. Maybe check it out. I think it's like joinbanded.com if you want to check out the website. But we talked about Donald Miller's marketing and his insights, and such a wise dude. I've heard he's got an incredible house too. I've never been, but just heard that. So if you're in Nashville and you look up Donald Miller, maybe go check out his house, swim in his pool. I'm sure he's got one. But they talked about just the simplicity of a message and how 3 words in a marketing message wins. 4 is okay, 5's too much. And he also said when it comes to names, if you have a name that doesn't make sense, you have to be very clear about what you do. But if your name does make sense, then you can be a little more creative with your tagline. So the example he used in this specific instance was, there's a place that's called like Milk and Honey. And you might think that they make milk and honey, but they're like, we cut hair, we do makeup, or we sell clothes. That was their tagline. Like, now you know very clearly what they do. And then someone else was like, if you are, Bill Gross Scale, I'm pretty sure I have an idea what you do, so you can elaborate a little bit more. Cartology, like, okay, I don't really know what that is, and we just say like Amazon Simplified, Amazon's Complex, Amazon Simplified. I don't know if Amazon likes it or not, but I didn't ask them specifically. I don't have it, like, I can't trademark that. But
Sure.
I think the most simple things often win because of there's so much complexity, and your brain does have a hard time processing that. And that's why an image well done, people can process a lot faster. Like seeing sunglasses on someone, a lot easier than you telling me about the features of these sunglasses.
Yeah, and we know from our testing too, showing the item in relation to something that they can visualize the size
Scale
makes a
testing
huge
or
difference too.
scale visualization.
Yeah, it's just like if it's a supplement bottle, having it next to someone's hand, because a lot of times they're zoomed in and it looks like this big container of vitamins, and when they get it, it's like this big, and they feel disappointed even though it's exactly what they
And it
bought. But
doesn't
if they saw
matter.
someone holding it, they would be like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought I was going to get." So you'd be shocked at those, like you said, being very simple, and people can remember that too.
Are you doing something that's easy to remember? That feels memorable in and of itself. I'm actually going to start selling horse tranquilizers. I'm going to have people hold these big horse pills, and then they'll get a really good idea of how big this horse pill is. I don't know if you can give horses tranquilizers and pills, but whatever.
I don't know. Yeah.
You are talking about a lot of what you're hinting on, or what I'm getting is there are a lot of things that people can do, but where is their head at? Where are people? When are people resistant to change, or is their mindset off for whatever reason? Because they've just got some, I don't know, they've got some kind of, they're grounded in some unreality, or they're just unwilling to see it because they've been grounded in something that they thought was supposed to be real, but in reality is not always the case.
I would say, in their defense, but it still needs to shift, is most store owners look at their site as, how do I sell more stuff? How do I sell more stuff? And I always encourage them to have the paradigm shift of coming to their site as a customer, and how do I solve my problem? So trust,
Okay.
easy navigation, and Homer Simpson simple. Those matter. Too many people try to be flowery, and I also say clarity trumps persuasion.
Okay.
They try to be very persuasive and all these flowery words and complicated. And I'm going to tell you that if you think people are complicated, go do your customer service. Look at what people write in for customer service for a little while. You'll realize that um, the internet and buying stuff online is probably still in the third inning. There is a lot of people that don't understand how to navigate a site. There is a lot of people that don't understand what little icons are. And so we label the icons menu, cart, and you'd be surprised how much that helps. It's crazy. Before COVID, only about 10% of people did shopping online. During COVID, it went all the way up to 33%.
There's a pretty big
And then
increase
now
almost
after
overnight.
it, yeah, now afterwards, it's like 27% and starting to climb again. So I still believe that people buying stuff online constantly, other than a site like Amazon, it's still in the third, fourth inning. There's a lot to go, and a lot of people that still don't trust doing it that way.
Oh, and the benefit of having your own site is you get to design it however you want. The downfall is there's no standardization. So if someone is going to one website to another, it's a little bit unfamiliar. Whereas the benefit of an Amazon is their UI is not anything like it's. I mean, there is dynamics to it. It is really, really pretty, but it's not over the top. It is meant to be super simple so that wow, $10 deals. This is what I was looking at before. Add to cart, buy now. I know exactly what I want. And people start to complicate it in the media assets and the A plus content. I saw one brand who they had maybe 20 calls to action in their A plus content. We do this and we do this and we do this. I'm like, no one cares. They're not reading that. As soon as they see that, they're glossing over it. What are the 2 or 3 most important things people need to know about your product? And not just the feature, like it's Bluetooth enabled, but that's a little bit more self-explanatory, but why should someone, it has jojoba oil. Great. Am I looking for jojoba oil? Or what does it do? Beautiful sheen, strong hair, no crap, jojoba oil. Great. Now I know exactly what this thing does and why it's beneficial to me, but you have to simplify that stuff.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is in your descriptions, don't make them about you. Make them about them. That's another
Yes.
it's a minor paradigm shift, but
That's a sales thing. Don't talk about
they
yourself a
don't,
bunch.
yeah, they don't care about you. All they care about is them. That's really all they care about. And so if you make it about them, they will resonate. If you can describe their problem better than they can, you're automatically the solution. So make it about them, not you.
But then you have to go in and understand. You might have created this product that solves a problem or fits a need, but you have to be able to go in to that consumer mindset and get rid of your affinity for your own brand and then say,
Yep.
okay, what is actually happening here? Do I quite understand it? And that's, of course, why consumer research panels are important, or just doing your own research in general. But even you
Yep.
as a person, if you can try and wipe that slate clean, you might get a better understanding of okay, I see how this could come off to someone. But that requires an open mindset too.
Yeah, we do user testing. So we'll create a set of instructions that someone will give them to a user tester, and then they'll record their screen and walk their way through the instructions, and we can see how clear things are and how they can figure them out. And then we use that to find ways to smooth out that process. And that's probably, I would say that's probably 2 or 3 of the other bigger wins too, is when we can actually observe a customer going through the site, trying to do specific actions and see how understandable it is.
Are you watching them live, or they are recording the screen and you're going back and watching it?
Yeah, they record the screen and then it's given to us.
It's a little disappointing. I was kind of hoping there was a black window or something where they were on the other side, watching someone. But do people balk more at the data you give them, like this test worked better? Or do they balk more at the consumer? Like, or maybe I should rephrase the question. Do people accept data when you give them the data, or do they accept more watching a user and being like, even though it's more anecdotal, they're like, oh, okay, I see this, because then now they're seeing it from that perspective instead of just a number?
Yeah, I think we're fortunate that we've been doing this long enough. Than the clients that come to us, they're I think when you pay attention, and they're paying us enough money that they definitely trust us. And if they don't, then they wouldn't. And so no, we take them the data and show them what people are doing. And a lot of times we're just as surprised as they are. But the data is the data, and we are very agnostic about it. We have to make educated decisions based off of what we're seeing, and then come to a conclusion.
I think I just think about, as you develop in a skill set, what makes you a master in something, I don't know that it's that you have all the answers, but it is you can make the best action. You can take the best action. If it's doing research and then saying, hey, we think this is going to work, it's then testing it or battle testing it, putting it into use, and then responding appropriately. So you go into I'm thinking about master, and so I'm thinking about like a Bruce Lee. He might not be able to predict every single movement when he's, passed away, God rest his soul now, so he can't do anything. But if he were alive, he can't necessarily predict every movement. But as he starts to see you do things and he can pick up on stuff, now maybe he can get a little bit more predictive. Or as he sees something coming, he has responded to that enough times in training where now he knows the thing to do, and then maybe he knows, oh, this thing happened, now I can go on the offensive by doing this other thing. So it's not necessarily having all the answers, and that's something that drives me nuts about at least expertise that I see is we're the best, we're the smartest, everything. I'm like, I don't think that's what makes you great. You could be very intelligent, but you don't know how to respond or work in those real world situations. That intelligence goes out the window. So if expertise truly is best guess, best educated guess, test it, and then go with what works. And even if you're surprised, great.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you brought that up. I have a mentor that said to me, he used to say the same thing. I'm smart. And, I always thought I was smart. He goes, have you ever thought about asking yourself, what if I wasn't smart, or what if I'm not smart? Because the moment you do that, you then all of a sudden have all kinds more possibilities. But when you go, I'm smart, you think or you assume that and when do you look for other possibilities? No, you think you're right.
Why would you?
And so, so questioning that, it's so simple, but it literally changes everything.
I am not that old, but I'm older, getting older. Things don't move quite the same that they do. I picked up some dumbbells like 2 months ago, and I just like tweaked my back, and I was like, what the hell? How did that happen? Everything was okay. Put a little cold water on it, got a massage, whatever. But like, as a young man, a boy probably, I was headstrong. I know it's my way, blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of crazy, but the older I get, the more I ask for help. Guess what happens? I actually get to my answer, or I get where I need to go, and I sometimes get there faster because I ask for help. And I just so appreciate wisdom from people, regardless of what their background is. If you've lived a life and lived a life well, like, you've got so much to offer. And I'm just like, a question like that, the simplification of that only comes from being truly out in the wild, or the wild, wild west, so to speak. But being out in the wild, trying things, testing things, knowing what works, and honestly probably having your ego removed many times or hurt enough to the point where you're like, all right, I either got to learn from this, or I'm just going to be a total ass the rest of my life.
Yeah. The ego gets in the way of a lot of things. So when you can remove it, I think it creates a lot of clarity.
I don't have problems with ego because I'm very humble and very smart. So it's not really an issue for me. If you think about, okay, here's a very short story. I was working with a client on Amazon. We were talking about ad spend. They were maybe spending $100 a month, like just a very small amount on ads, which is like nothing. We increased it to 1,000. He didn't see a 10x increase in sales. He was upset about that. And this has served me well, but instead of just jumping to an answer to explain something, asking a clarifying question. And that gives you a lot of insight. So my question was, and I don't know where I learned that, a book or sales work, I don't know, but ask a clarifying question. And one of the questions that I asked was, well, what makes you think that if you 10x your spend, that your sales will 10x? His response was very telling. It was, well, it's just math. That's how it works. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're not really. I think he even might have said life, just how it works in life. And I was like, not necessarily. But then I knew, like, okay, I was kind of in a losing battle because the logic was flawed. But like, if you can ask questions instead of being reactionary, you can now determine what is someone actually after here, and then you can come up with an answer.
Yeah, I ask a lot of times in a perfect world, what would be the scenario where you go, yeah, we're super happy we did this. And then you set a set of expectations before you get going. Oh, that will be very hard to achieve. We're going to have to really push hard, and you're going to have to, let the data win and and that gives us a great thing. Or a lot of times their goal of a win is way less than what I was thinking that we were going to produce. And I'm like, oh, okay, we should far exceed that, or great. But just asking that question gets them to articulate what they're really looking for. And you'd be shocked how many different answers you get.
From people on the same teams even.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I said something about loving practical guidance, but we talked about getting to the mindset of someone. But like, what are practical things other than what we talked about? Maybe one or two practical things that someone could do as a store owner, as a brand owner. What are some things that they could be thinking about or just do on their own that would allow them to maybe better understand what you're doing in your world, or just test for themselves the things that they're hearing here?
Yeah, I would go back to less is more.
Okay.
So look at your website and how much can you remove. If you are ruthless about removing stuff, you will be shocked at how much that will help the conversions. People need simplicity. They just don't have the attention span to dig and be very analytical like they used to. There will be a few people that will scroll, but the fact that, looking at the analytics, that fewer than 60% of people scroll on a page in many cases, just tells you.
They just stay up right above the fold.
Yeah,
okay.
That's how important it is to have the information that's relevant to make a buying decision above the fold.
You've got a lot of wisdom, man. There's a lot of good stuff here, and it sounds like you've made a good amount of people a good amount of money too, which is probably very gratifying to be able to.
Yeah, I love it because people's brands or their businesses really is their vehicle to achieve a life that they feel complete in. And so when we help them succeed in a monetary way, they get to be a better dad, better mom, go places with their kids. I genuinely get up excited to go to work each day. I love what we do.
It's amazing. I feel very blessed to do what I do, certainly challenging at times, but yeah, It's amazing to be able to do something that, even though it's hard work, you feel very invested in. You get to see those results. Like, that is very rewarding.
Yeah, we love to win. We have a bunch of A-type personalities, and so we're literally looking to win. And if we're not, we're frustrated.
I say that we implemented EOS a couple years ago.
Yeah, we just did that.
Okay,
love
cool.
It.
We'll have to talk more about that. I'm a huge fan. Took us probably 2 years to really fully roll out rocks to the team, but we're there now, and it's great. The thing that was great is just clarifying core values, clarifying vision. That got people on board or off board really quickly. They said, "Oh, I'm not aligned with these core values. I should probably leave." Or they got coached out, or they got let go. But that was one of the best things for us. But I say, as a part of our mission and our niche, very simple. Our mission, elevate brands. We're here to elevate brands. Our niche is winning on Amazon.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, our new CEO literally had 2 brands that he built and exited on Amazon, and then came to work with us.
That's amazing.
And brought the EOS system. And so we spent the last 4 months building it all out, and we're in our first quarter of everybody's doing their rocks. And so we're getting ready to set them for the second quarter next week on Tuesday.
Yep. I love that. Those level 10 meetings. I'm the only one on the leadership team right now. So we do it a little bit differently. We have a stand up at the beginning of the week, and then we do an AAR, an all accounts review, where we just kind of reflect on stuff. So it's a little bit different, but we have those meetings. They're set, mandatory. They don't change.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's been super, super impactful. And anything that works for me, I just kind of preach that. I'm like, EOS is great. I mean, it can work. So
yeah, I love it.
Matthew, you've been a great guest. I've been a great host. Remember, I'm very smart and very humble. If people want to know more about what you are doing, tell them where they can find more about you. Maybe riding a horse in the wild, wild west, or digging for gold below that 60% where people don't scroll. Where can people find out more about what you're up to?
Yeah, the website's buildgrowscale.com.
It's very simple.
My email is matt@buildgrowscale.com. And I still read all my emails. Shoot me a line if you want me to take a look or do an audit of the UX UI of your site. I'd be happy to do it.
Love that. Well, that's it, everyone. We don't really have anything else for you, so you don't got to go home, but you got to get out of your car, or I don't know, wherever you're at, but you got to do something other than listen to the show. So thanks for your time, man. Cheers. All right, that was the show. What did you think? That was the longer game. We would love for you to share the show with other people and to leave us a review of the show. So go to iTunes, go to Spotify, even go to YouTube, comment, leave a review, and share this on any social channels that you are active on and wherever you have influence. We want to share this story and stories like it to as many people as possible. Do you have a compelling story and do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, and you're in the retail industry? Then go to thelongergame.com, fill out a form, and we will contact you about coming on the show. You can find us on any social channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can go to our website, thelongergame.com, to actually read all of these episodes in blog form in text, because we know not everyone's going to listen. This podcast is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We are a customized, done-for-you service agency that helps brands win on Amazon. It is super complex selling on the Amazon marketplace. We help simplify that for you. This podcast is also brought to you by Podcastify Me. They are a full-service podcast production company that designs podcasts around people who are paid for their advice. That is coaches. If you want someone to help create, strategize, and distribute your podcast to the masses, go to podcastify.me to find out more. I've so enjoyed that you've been a part of the conversation and that you've given of your time to hear these people's stories. We'd love for you to share. If you want to find out more, just go to thelongergame.com. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. And until next time, cheers.